Thanks for your patience, everyone. We're gonna start our session. So this session is
sorry for interrupt. It's a test. Wait, Corey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, finally we can use two mic. Okay.
Yes, we can hear Mariko. Yes.
Perfect. Let's go.
Righty. Thank you very much for joining our session, participating in Internet Governance for Everyone. So in this session, we focus on discussing how we can fill the gap between different organizations for the capacity building and community engagement. And the background is here. I think technically internet communities where everyone can participate in, like everyone can participate in the policy development of ICANN or APNIC, or you can also participate in internet governance forums such as IGF or regional IGF meetings and so on. But I think there's a lack of guidance for newcomers or younger generation to understand and learn about how internet community works and how the internet governance landscape looks like. So in this session, we are trying to focus on how can we encourage more use or, general internet user to be interested in participating in the internet community, and they might be more interested in participating in related forums such as IGF, ICANN, APNIC, APRICOT, IETF, and so on. So here's agenda. We're a bit running out of time, but I just doing some introduction from moderator. I'm Mariko Kobayashi from Wild Project, also Arena Pack. We have just signed the pairing agreement in the opening ceremony, if you recognize. And there will be keynote 10 minutes, Jun. Please keep an eye on the time. So Jun will give a keynote. Then we have 4 excellent panelists, Coley from Keio University, Awal from APNIC, and Edmond from .Asia, Yin Chen from ICANN APAC. And after that, we are planning to have an open discussion. We expect to have some open mic, so if you have something to say, you can really take a floor. So now this is keynote speech from Professor Jun Lai. We have 10 minutes. So I expect Jun will give a speech on why everyone should get involved in the internet community operations or its policy development and so on. I think you can give insights from the internet pioneer perspective. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let me see. Can I? Okay, so okay, yeah, just 10 minutes, and then I try to be compact about the try to be kind of by internet governance and everything, but then so the title is Internet is for Everyone. This is a title. Well, actually, it's the motto of our Internet Society. When we discussed with Vince Cerf, myself, and some others in 1995, I believe, in one of the ISA conference background, and then we did a discussion that we should set up some kind of a goal of the Internet, and we are very naturally reaching to this phrase, the Internet for everyone. So, but actually, it's a very interesting and ambitious goal. But if you look at this graph, right, the Internet population, the penetration was just less than 1%. In 1995. So that was very much kind of I didn't say that kind of embarrassing that when the less than 1%, and we still say the internet is for everyone, but that was a very much strong goal. But it was so natural. I remember that we thought that it's going to be 100% of the world population is going to be participating on the internet. So that was our belief that time. So why this type of successful we are on 70% about today, so 30% to go. This is internet inclusion, obviously, and we need to achieve. And why the internet reaching to this so fast to cover the almost everyone. So now everyone, we can discuss about everyone will be participating on the internet, and then some of us are already in a kind of nation state region and everything. We are reaching to the almost the 70%, 80%, 90%, and 100% is our view, obviously, right? Okay, so why internet reaching to this stage so fast? The first key issue is the open standard. Open standard means the same technology for everyone, and the IP, of course, but the web also. Tim Berners-Lee said the one web, and then this is very important that because this technology being used for the PC or the data center, your smartphone are the same architecture, TCP/IP architecture, and the web architecture is on it, and therefore there is going to be a kind of a sharing of all the technology. So we work for the standardization, and everybody can enjoy the benefit of that platform, right? So very much. When we start to use the internet, then it's investment money is very low because it's already there and built in to any kind of a computer, right? And the operation of the services, it's already there. The video encoding, decoding built into the web browser. Therefore, you don't have to develop the new the image and the video encoding and decoding anymore. So that's generated the new industry on the video and the movie sharing type of business, like the Netflix or the YouTube or whatever, the TikTok, whatever. Is just kind of free riding on an internet platform, which is very important. And also the autonomous distributed system is a key idea for the designing the internet. So any part of the internet is a crash, then alternative function can be covered. And then the probably the most important thing is that when the 1% in the 1995, today it's a 70%. We are talking obviously about 100% of the human, and then the human beings going to be enjoying any industry, any business enjoying the internet capability. Therefore, it's going to be the nation state government interests that our economy is on the internet. Therefore, the government is cares about the internet. So we need to communicate, right? The individual to utilize the internet, and then also the government people, policy people, and the business people. So all the stakeholders need to discuss about the future of the internet. So that is the most important thing. But then because we've been doing that, therefore we achieved this. So a lot of big change and a little bit of the coverage, for example, is low Earth orbit thing like a Starlink, and then so it's covering the the more than the mobile computing terrestrial infrastructure thing now, and we are now talking about the moon to be connecting to the internet type of a thing. So flying object like uh, the uh, anything like a drone flying on the air can receive the signal of the internet. So where we are is we are in the APAN community, and the APAN Asia Pacific is 66%. But the most important thing is the population is the largest in the world. So, actually, this is a circle to collect the 50% of the world population. This is amazing, right? So, our region is very important that the 50% of the world population is sitting in our region. And then, when the internet on a the services of today is like artificial intelligence, then collecting all the information from the human beings, so human brains, for example. So this is very much the largest responsibility is coming from the Asia Pacific thing, right? So because this is AI power is very much equal to the number of the brains, meaning number of the population. So we've been working together for the connecting the research and the educational entity like REM. APAN also is talking about the research and the educational network to be connected, and we've been doing a very good job in the region. So I really want in the Europe there is a EU, in the US there is a National Science Foundation US to be connecting the kind of a neighboring countries. So I really wanted this type of a mechanism to be existing in the Asia Pacific region. Therefore, we started the kind of APIDT, Arena Park, SOI Asia is basically wants to achieve that in a regional scope only for the internet, Asia Pacific internet development thing. So research and educational again means from 2025 it's going to be a very important area because the university is a kind of a global space, and then when we are talking about the policy thing, then the university also would be helped, and then the education. One of the questions these days is, when the United Nations is talking about the global digital compact, then can the research and the educational network, should we support the medical and the healthcare things? So especially when we are talking about the kind of internet inclusion of a situation. Another thing that I'd like to raise today is that when the critical infrastructure, when we are talking about, there used to be a communication area is kind of telephone broadcasting, and then the internet becoming one of it. But those technology is now digital data center internet is based with supported only by the electricity. So its energy consumption is getting very large for the AI processing. So this is another area that we should work. And so digital data use going to be essential for the AI processing for the future. And then, so secure sharing, secure use of digital data is going to be a very essential thing. So the question is how the global policy can achieve those secure sharing and the secure use of a digital data thing. And so the AI processing and the lastly, this is my last slide I'd like to share. So this is electricity thing we are talking about. Without electricity, then the computer doesn't work, internet doesn't work, and then so if you have you are in Hong Kong, and then China is the EV is everywhere, and then in Tokyo every single house is a mandated by the Tokyo city government that the solar panel need to be equipped. So this is very much the new era and the new environment to connect them, kind of a very much a micro level, ultra micro level of the electricity to be shared, because we do have an internet, and so autonomous distributed system of the internet can help the electricity mechanism as well, which has never been happened. So the point is, the important thing is, not only a technology platform, but also how we participate, and that we can participate on a, kind of making a decision for the future of the internet and the AI assumed society. So this is very much I wanted to share with you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jun. Thanks, Jun, for giving like overview, point out how we should keep an eye on the internet system and how we should be participating. So next speaker will be the colleague, Michael.
Hello.
Hello. So Polly will introduce a new online course from the Keio University as a API program.
Right.
And I
Yes.
think we firstly,
Maybe we should, watch the trailer
Yeah.
first. Hopefully the sound comes through.
Ah, 来てないね。いや、シェアしてないと思う。
サウンドシェア入れま
You
す。
can hear it in person.
多分こっちに出てないけど、ズームに出てるかも。
いや、それはありえない。ズームの音はここに出るはずなんで。
ローカルで、うん。ローカルでやると、
Oh, there. I just heard the sound.
How do you imagine about healthy internet? We are now in Shibuya Scramble Crossing in Tokyo, Japan. In this crowd of people, why don't we see anyone bumping into each other?
It's because everyone moves autonomously and respects one another's movement. Similarly, on the internet, there is no central authority that manages everything. However, have you thought about how difficult it is to keep the internet healthy?
I don't think any big difference between the human health and the internet health. Right? It's still always working and sustainable. And if something happens, then it has to be recovered. So resilience is going to be very important. That basically the concept of the healthy internet.
How can we make the internet healthy? What are the essential elements and risks for healthy internet?
So everyone should have something to say to run a healthy internet.
You should find your interest. What is the thing that if it is lost, you will suffer?
There are many issues that you can think about across the different layers.
Anybody who's interested can participate.
Through this 3-week journey, we will understand what the healthy internet looks like, how it is maintained and evolved by various communities who participate in the internet, and how our own voice can affect the future of the internet.
The internet is not for everyone. Everyone can contribute to shaping its future. What can we do to make a healthier internet? Let's learn together.
Thank you. So that's Ukulele, my online course.
Okay, so could you go ahead and show the slides again? Oh, I think page, yeah. Okay. Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so my name is Corey. I'm a project researcher at Keio University right now. So one of the programs that myself, Mariko, and some other people in the room, including Professor Murai, have been working on over the past couple of years has been a series of online courses, specifically for the internet, what we call the internet engineers across the Asia Pacific region. So we've created this program largely as a um, way to train the next generation of youth capacity building across the Asia Pacific region, specifically. So up until now, we focused largely on technical content, but we realized throughout our journey there isn't really as much um, content focused on internet governance or the kind of, I guess, soft layers of the internet. So a lot of course material provided by other organizations up until now has focused largely on, the technical aspects or the different kind of business layers and things like that. But we wanted to focus on kind of how different communities and stakeholders on the internet itself shape the rules and operation of the internet. So we developed a new course which we just launched, actually I think yesterday. So this kind of coincides with this session that we're holding. So it's a 3-week online course that we've created. So we talk mainly about kind of what different organizations or different individuals in different internet communities define, how they define the healthy internet, and then kind of how we as individuals can make the internet healthy. And then in the third week, we talk a bit about kind of how to participate, how individuals, newcomers to this space can participate and join in on the internet itself as part of the community. Oh, sorry, could you go to the next slide, Mari? Yeah, so the first week is largely focused on kind of how different um, organizations or different individuals view the internet. So, we introduce the internet as a lot of us know already to an extent, the kind of common global cyberspace. I'm going to talk about kind of the historical journey of how the internet came to be, and talk a little bit about the kind of background of the internet, as a research network. And then Professor Murai always has this interesting slide that he talks about. One of the founder of KO actually kind of describes a interconnected world, over 100 years ago, before the internet was conceived, but using telegraphs. So even before the internet, there are similar internet-like concepts that have existed in different shapes or forms across time. So we kind of focus on some of the, how humans have networked before. Could you go to the next slide, please? So the second week of our course that we've created, we talk about kind of, how the current internet runs and how it stays healthy. Kind of how domain names work, how IP addresses work, some of the basic introduction to those systems, and kind of how those systems themselves are managed and governed by the community. So we talk about, the global internet operation, and some of the open standards that Professor Murai just mentioned as well, and kind of how everyone works together in a best effort fashion to keep the internet as a whole and how that's kind of contributed to the world we have today. So we've combined different resources from various organizations. So for example, on the slide, you can see some of ICANN's learning resources, and some other resources from like APNIC and other organizations throughout the internet ecosystem. Yeah, so could you go to the next system? Yeah, so the final week of our 3-week online course that we're announcing today is we're trying to encourage not just teach history, but kind of look forward and kind of encourage people to see how the internet impacts them or how they can impact the internet as well. That kind of mutual relationship that we can't just we can't just use the internet. We have to participate and kind of be involved in it in various forms and shapes. So whether that's developing it as someone in the IETF making standards, or whether it's operation as a ISP or network engineer, or even just a simple website operator. We've also talked about and interviewed people, just individual users, or people you might not necessarily think are technical, but still are part of the internet ecosystem. And then kind of how these different groups come together to develop policies, and kind of what that means for the internet, and kind of what it could mean going forward. So specifically, we didn't want to create this is the definition of the internet. We instead focused on providing a number of different viewpoints. So we've interviewed a number of people across the Asia Pacific region. So like a couple of years ago when IGF was hosted in Japan, we interviewed a number of people formerly at ICANN and APNIC, and other youth who have participated in some of their fellowship programs and things like that. So we wanted to capture kind of a diverse group of individuals, and see how that could, create a course that could hopefully inspire the next generation of users, and kind of operators, and what different needs arise on the internet. So with that, that's the quick introduction to our kind of recent work at KO. So what I'm hoping to get out of today's discussion is kind of, I think Mariko will have more on this, but, talk about the different capacity building resources that other organizations across, especially across Asia Pacific, since as Professor Murai mentioned, we are a very diverse, geographically diverse, geopolitically diverse, and kind of culturally diverse region compared to some of the others, such as Europe or the US, for example. So yeah, I'm hoping that we can get some useful input and feedback from the other panelists and from you, the audience, as well. So with that, I will give the mic back to Mariko for the next step of the panel discussion.
Thanks a lot, Kali. That's perfect introduction. So I think from the next step, we will have a discussion topics, mainly having the 3 speakers from the Asia Pacific region, and to focus on discussing these 3 key issues. First one is identifying the needs and the issues. Probably we might focus on our region. That could be more relevant to each of ourselves. And second point is we would like each speaker to share what are existing capacity building resources from the maybe .Asia view or the APNIC. APNIC has APNIC Academy and some fellowship too, and I think ICANN has also like ICANN Learn, or ICANN is involved in some like APIGA or that kind of programs for next generation. So let's start from the first key question, identifying the needs and issues. So what kinds of literacy or competency do Edmond or Awa or Yichen want the general internet users or next generation internet users to have as an active internet participants?
I'm happy to start first.
Perfect, thank you.
Hello? Okay. This is Edmund from Asia. Happy to start first. Asia ourselves have been engaged in supporting, I guess, capacity building and getting more people, especially from the Asia Pacific, to participate in internet governance discussion. Well, I think I'll start with you asked the question of what kind of literacy and competency. One of the first things about Asian, especially East Asian people, now we are in Hong Kong, um, is just the matter of willingness to speak up. I think June mentioned, and also in the video that you showed, you talked about a healthy internet. I always like to say, especially at ICANN, when we talk about ICANN policies for the internet, I always say that a noisy ICANN is a healthy ICANN, because the willingness to speak up is really important. And the other equally important part is the willingness to speak your mind and then come to compromise. This is something that is I find maybe lacking in some of the Asian education systems. They don't really encourage young people to speak their minds and then come to a compromise, because that is where global policies and global discussions about open standards that and the multi-stakeholder model is about. So I think these are these couple of things that I really come to mind. Another thing that I wanted to kind of stress on, which also June mentioned earlier, is the concept of the global multi-stakeholder model. So a lot of people feel that it's kind of like a internet UN, the United Nations. But it's exactly not that. One of the things about the internet is that it is really for everyone, and the governance of the internet, in fact, needs the engagement of every stakeholder, including the academia, including youth, including the technical community. And it is also not a representative model. You don't just send a representative, you actually have to participate. It's a participatory model. And if some of the, I've seen certain countries that sends a squadron of people and they all speak the same thing. That's exactly not the way to participate in internet governance, because everyone should be a little bit different. You should bring your mind into it, including contradicting your government, including contradicting the businesses in your country. But a lot of Asians are not comfortable doing that. So that, I think, is one of the first things that we need to think about when we bring a new participation into the internet governance discussion. So I'll start there with the first top.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very good quotes like Edmond mentioned, like noisy community is healthy community. And like first step for the next generation or general internet user might be speak up, like share your voice to the floor, to the community. It's very important. Thank you. So probably Awao, are you able to for the next?
Thank you, Mariko, and thanks for very good insights about the challenges. Of course, there are a lot of different challenges, bigger and smaller. I am originally from Bangladesh. I know South Asia. You mentioned East Asian and Southeast Asian, the cultural issue that we have. I think South Asia also have, to some extent, issues. For example, internet in our region, when originally started, it actually essentially developed as an engineering topic. It's not really for everybody. That was the beginning of the internet in general for everybody. So when you expect everyone participate, if they understand that thing as a general topic, then you expect everybody will come. But usually from the university, if you see the students who are becoming professionals, only thinking about participating in internet-related technological development or the usage of the internet being a technical thing. So anybody who is not part of the technical subjects or the majors, they just feel them as a user and they don't find the platform. Where should I go and ask? And if something doesn't work, it's probably only me who is facing it. The whole internet works. So yeah, and also the government participation. Over the years, IGF has evolved a lot. ICANN forums had now a lot of different stakeholders. That's why it's called multi-stakeholder model. But is the message properly went to that group of people who actually left them isolated and never thought about the internet being there on of that? They don't feel that I'm also a stakeholder of that level. But I think through several initiatives by different organizations, now more and more younger generation, I would say, like from the university, they know that this is something that I have to take care of because it's my kind of I feel like it's mine and I should take care of it, things like that. But there's still a lot of challenges because of whoever participating at some point may not continue participating. Who is not participating may continue not participating. So there's a big gap there as well. So, but from APNet, we really try to go and reach to the community, and because we always work with to some extent, the technical community, so we try to reach out to the engineering community there. Okay, I'll pass to.
I'll take it from here. It's kind of funny because you talked about East Asia, South Asia. I guess I'm going to represent Southeast Asia since I'm from Malaysia. But no, I'm going to speak on behalf of ICANN here. So more of the regional, I would say. So I think in terms of needs, to your question, Mariko, it's really, I guess, educating or sharing capacity building on how the internet works at the logical layer, because that's the invisible layer that people don't see. Because I think Corey shared the digital layers where you have the infrastructure layer at the bottom. I think generally people would kind of understand, yeah, submarine cables or even satellite and things like that. And then you have the top layer, which is the social content app layer. Everyone would know because you're using the internet, so you would know that. But in a way, unfortunately, logical layer, which is what is keeping the internet working, is not as well known. I would say the Asia Pacific region has done a good job the past 10 years-ish in terms of building awareness, gaining understanding through different stakeholders, but there's still more to do. So I think in terms of identifying needs, it's really raising awareness and doing capacity building with the different stakeholder groups in relation to the logical layer. At ICANN, of course, because we have a focus on policy development process for the namespace as well. So that's also, of course, one part of our focus, as well as just generally how unique identifiers are coordinated in terms of the INR functions, the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority functions, which is core of how, again, the logical layer works, right? So in ICANN, of course, the capacity building program, I know we have a strong focus on bringing in newcomers which are more the younger generation here in this session. But previous to panelists as well, you mentioned multi-stakeholder participation. So for ICANN, the capacity building programs that we run is not only just for younger generation. We do have different dedicated type of capacity building program for the different stakeholders as well. So for instance, for the technical community at the local level, we do run the trainer type session so that at the local level they can scale. For governments as well, sometimes just focusing on law enforcement agencies. What does it impact them, at the logical layer? What kind of policy discussions, how it will impact them, let's say, on cybercrime investigation. We recently launched a series of webinars for ISPs as well. So that includes things like routing, BGP, RBKI, and so all the technical stuff, which I'm not adept, but yes, I still know the terms. And then sometimes we do capacity building on topic focused content as well. So for instance, universal acceptance is something pretty large at ICANN as well. So for those who haven't heard that, it's basically to make all systems and software
be able to accept all kinds of domain names. That's the short definition. But why did I raise that? Also because it's related to digital access, where we can bring in, the remaining unconnected, especially if you're using domain names in a different language or script. So that's a different topic. But in short, what I've shared earlier is really just to give you a flavor of the different kind of needs that we identify across the different multi-stakeholder groups that we engage with. And normally we do kind of cater the capacity building content accordingly. Linking to that, because we do, the previous panelists as well mentioned some challenges. I did want to mention one or two that are kind of top challenges that we're seeing as well. If we're talking about newcomers, I think sometimes it's information overload. It is very, very complex ecosystem, also because of its decentralized nature. It is like when you come in, just understanding the basics for you to absorb, and then you kind of want to identify where can you participate is really, really hard. It does take a bit of time and guidance and mentorship from experienced people in the space to kind of guide you along. So again, I think the Asia Pacific region, in terms of the several capacity building programs, we're doing a little bit of a better job in the past 10 years in trying to break down the very complex content to smaller bits and pieces, and also catering to the different types of newcomers, even because sometimes if you are youth, maybe your background is more of a technical background. So then you would be kind of filtered into more of the technical space, say APAN60 maybe, right? But if you're more of a policy person, then maybe you'll be more interested in ICANN. So this is just an example, but of course, there are a lot of spaces. And even for me, like I haven't been to an APAN meeting before as well. So like there are so many platforms, like for people to understand as newcomers, it is really, really complex. So that information overload and really trying to break it down to try and address that. For youths, also, one of the key challenges that we're facing in terms of retaining people is that if there's not enough careers in this space, it is kind of hard to retain them because they're building out their careers. We cannot expect them to be able to multitask, volunteering, which requires a lot of time understanding the space, people, while building out their careers at the young age as well, just coming out, graduating from school. So that is something that we, later on when we reach the later topics, we'll kind of have a bit of a sharing on how we're thinking of trying to address that as well. It takes time, but we're trying. For professionals, I've mentioned about the different stakeholder groups. So taking government as an example, sometimes even doing the capacity building program, the key content that we need to deliver to them is also what is at stake, because for them to convince their management or executives that it's important for them to be part of this discussion, they do need that key messaging as well. So if we deliver the capacity building content to them, but there's no punchline for them to kind of convince their management on like this is important, that would fail as well. So I think those are some of the challenges that we're looking at. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I agree with Yen-Chen on I think we need a more structured guidance, maybe across the different community, different platforms, different existing programs. And I think that might be related with the next two questions. So I think speakers could touch in both of the question if you would like to do. But the second question is, what are existing learning materials, programs and fellowship or platform does each community organization have? And second point is how we could design a collaborative pathway across the different platform and the communities. So yes, I think each speaker could mention probably the guidance or mentorship or capacity building programs or any discussion platforms if you have. So if Edomo or Awa would like to start.
Thank you, Mariko. I think I can talk about several of the platforms that, including ICANN as well. Like ICANN Learn is a good platform where you can find short courses for the domain names and numbers. But APAN60, we have an academy platform where we have all our materials published publicly. several technical trainings, virtual labs, somebody can practice some labs. And these are very very good and very nicely used by our young like engineers who are building their careers and want to know more detail of the technical topics. I think ISOC has a platform as well where they have mentored learning materials as well as the self-paced. Apart from these, I think it's also important for people to participate hands-on training programs. APNIC, we try to cover the NOG, Network Operators Groups meetings, where most of the NOGs, they have fellowship programs where they invite, including APAN, they also has the fellowship program, though APAN doesn't have workshop tracks, but many of the NOG events or Network Operators Group events, you will see that they organize a hands-on workshop and they invite fellows to join and learn hands-on things. But these are mostly technical workshops. When it comes to policy, I think APNIC has our policy development process, or PDP, which nobody needs to come on site. They can participate in the mailing list. They can also join online when we do the face-to-face discussion at APNIC conferences. These are very important because it impacts how the internet is run by the internet organization. So I would say these are some of the scopes that the students or the professionals who wants to involve themselves, they can explore. API, very nicely done program, like they have the e-learning and then e-workshop and then the camp and then the advanced camp. I would not compare this program. I don't think there's any other program like that. So it's difficult to compare, but I would say it's very nicely done. And whoever had the opportunity to participate are very lucky students, and I think that will help them with their career. And because once they come to one program, they get touched and know about other platforms and other opportunities, like every other organization probably also offering fellowships, things like that. I think that will be very interesting, but it's so hard to put everything in one place. I don't know, maybe this learning platform might be in a place where whoever taking this new course might be able to get more information about what other opportunities they have.
Yeah, just building on what Awal was saying, I think it is, at this point, it's really not a lack of fellowship programs. In fact, everywhere you go to, there are different capacity training fellowship programs. Getting people to be interested in it is probably the bigger challenge, and something that we we really need to think through. And I'm hoping that the younger generation can help us with it as well. And the other aspect that I actually wanted to emphasize is retaining some of these alumni or the network. Actually, just before the session, I was talking to Wal and Mariko, and in fact, Corey is also an alumni of the APIGA program, one of the capacity building youth programs that ICANN and .Asia and APNIC work together on. And one of the things that we have learned is to engage the alumni network a lot better over the years. We apologize for your first cohort where the alumni program wasn't as built up, but now actually, especially from the last couple of years, from the Net Mission program that we do, we now have a Net Mission Plus network that connects all the youth IGF initiatives around Asia Pacific and also beyond Asia Pacific to link young people together, because that's one big important part of it. The other thing is to, in our mind, is to move further into substantive input. One of the things that we have done, as Yenjin said, in the last 10, 15 years is capacity building and engagement. But in order to retain people so that people are interested, they have to be able to substantively input into the actual policies, actual protocol, actual discussions. And that's one of the things that in the last few years we have been focusing on, and that's what the NetMission Plus network is about. And through that network, in fact, there is what we now call a Asia Pacific policy observatory, where there's youth-led research that is being done about internet policies, and that's I think is going to make a difference in terms of retaining the kind of young brains that are interested, that it's so difficult to get them to participate, that to know about the programs, got them to go through the programs, and then they go back to the world where we lost contact with them. That's something that we have to learn to do better. Knowing, however, that you will never retain everyone. But the other thing is what I want to pick up on Yen Chen's point is getting management support in actual participation. Because when young people get their job, even if it's well, especially if it's not directly related, it's very difficult to get the budget and get the time off for you to come and participate at APAN or APNIC or ICANN and so on. Even if they're directly involved, sometimes it's difficult to justify. But the question is, it's really about, I think, a management mindset on what protocols are and how protocols affect the actual businesses of the companies. And that's one thing that I think Asian companies have to learn to understand better. And the last thing I wanted to include on the point is it's actually not that technical. Even if you talk about the IETF protocols, the most technical ones are, it's really just what are you going to tell the other machine, which domain name are you passing through, what data is passing through. It's like a list of things. That's what protocol is. You're not really coding that much. Of course, there are more technical stuff. And then you go to the ICANN layer, you go to the APNIC layer, then it's definitely much more policy, and it's a lot more common sense and what is fair, what makes sense for the community. That's what is being discussed in the policies, and those policies actually affect how your business is run. And that's the part that I think for these capacity building program, the next step, two things. One, for the youth part and for the newcomers, how we retain them. The second part is how do we engage the management and the companies to actually allocate some resources for their staff to participate.
Thanks. I think at the moment, like a very important points, like how we can retain people or how much we need a substantial impact. And I think the NetMission Plus is very interesting program. I think, for example, the API community might have some like the Slack channel or something for the alumni from the program, I think. And getting management support for, budget and time wise is also, I think, very difficult. I think some of the audience here might have some problem in your organization too. And yeah, I think that point is also interesting, like actually not that technical, maybe not that technical than you expected, something like that. Yes. So after I ask this question to Chen, I'm thinking to also ask this question to June and colleagues, so be prepared.
Okay, so I'm gonna do very brief touch on what courses we have, because I think it's kind of touched on here and there. So of course we have the online platform I Can Learn. We have global programs, which is ICANN Fellowship and NextGen. So NextGen is more for students, so 18 to 30. Depending on where the ICANN meeting is, which region, it will tag along that. But ICANN Fellowship is really anyone could apply. And then of course APIGA was mentioned, and I thought for those who are not aware of this program yet, that the full name is Asia Pacific Internet Governance Academy. It is a kind of flagship youth capacity building program in the APAC region for youths aged 18 to 35. So that is pretty big range. So it's not really like very, very young people, but it's like a range of people that are joining us. And then of course earlier dedicated trainings that I mentioned. But I did want to touch a bit more on the challenges and how we're trying to address them. So we mentioned about okay, so you do have this one, which is great because I have in my points to share this as well, because I think sometimes I mentioned about information overload, but sometimes it's also too many courses and too many capacity building programs available, and people kind of get lost on like, okay, what should we do? Where should we start? Which one is suitable for us? So collaborating across all the partners, like this session is great because we start to touch about, you know, what we have and how we can collaborate better, such that we can scale better, because it does take up a lot of human resources as well as money, like financial resources, to build our capacity building program, whether it's online, whether it's on site, planning the entire event. So tapping on each other's resource, I think, and finding the synergy such that we can collaborate with each other is important. At the AP Star meeting, actually, which is the AP Star community for internet organizations, the meeting that we hold along Apricot and APNIC now, we are actually kind of trying to identify this as well, working together with the internet organizations in the APAC community to see how we can, you know, identify places where we can actually work together. It can start small, things like maybe just one or two organizations. If you're going somewhere to do a training, how can we tap on each other on resourcing so that we don't need to fly 2 or 3 people to the same place at different timing, talking about the same thing. So just, you know, calendaring, coordinating that, or even things like selecting fellowship. We may be able to exchange notes on, okay, I've had experience with this one, maybe he or she is like intermediate level, we can kind of push forward such that they can, you know, convert to a more mature level, like Edmund mentioned, because roaming around all fellowship programs give you that flavor, but really converting from that introductory fellowship part to actually participating and contributing is the hardest part. We all know that that conversion is the one that we want to reach. So trying to tap on each other and starting from, you know, just mapping out what kind of course we have is great. I might plagiarize this, I'll get this from you. But again, at the AP Star community, which we've invited APAN to be a steering group as well. Hopefully we can really kind of bond this in the longer run and see how we can tap on each other. The other issue that we were talking about was also on funding. Scaling the capacity building, if we're doing it, you know, just if we're shifting around the different economies and then we're trying to do like a very tight or hands-on kind of program, it requires a lot of financial commitment. So I'm going to use the APIGA as an example on how we try to scale. So APIGA, the regional APIGA this year will be the 9th time. But we actually expanded the program, the first pilot for the cycle, to expand at the local level in the past few months. So we started August, so August 2024 to April 2025 was our first cycle. And we had 7 local APIGA events. You can think of it something like a mini APIGA event, because at the local level, it is a 2 to 3 day event. There's about a handful of mandatory topics on the basic ones. So we are working all together with the partners very tirelessly now on upgrading the regional APIGA program. So you can think of it like a advanced or master's course, but also the integration, it requires a bit of a work. So how does that kind of address the funding issue, right? The local APIGA events, there's strictly no financial support from the partners, just because we do not have enough money. So the regional APIGA is the one that we fund all the resourcing. Our partners come together to speak, but at the local level, what we're trying to do is to train the next generation to actually take up the organizing role. So what happens is APIGA alumni from past years, they would be the lead organizers for the local APIGA events, and that has been the case for all 7. And hopefully with this model, we're able to scale such that at least at the local level, we're sharing this information more broadly. And also, the key thing is also you could speak in your local language. Understanding the topic, again, is complex. Maybe not as technical, but it's complex. But I think if you are learning it in a language that you're not even very familiar with, plus the complexity of it, it's really kind of mind-blowing. So for local APIGA event, the other plus thing is the language. So linking that back to what I mentioned about opportunities in employment as well. At the local level, if we're having a small 20 to 30 cohort of local APIGA, the local host itself or partnering organizations at the local level will also be able to identify talent and they can actually hire these people if they need, junior entry level or even highest. They could identify talent and hire them, because for regional APIGA, the issue that we face is also we only have almost commonly one or at most two representatives from each economy across the APAC region. And so if partner organizations come and they do see talent, they can't even, sometimes you can't even hire them, mainly because of cross-borders, employment regulations and things like that. So at the local level, it's going to be a lot easier in that sense, because the partners or the local hosts can directly, hire people that have gone through this program. And the last thing that I wanted to say, because Emma mentioned about the private sector, or rather the wider internet community as well, we are trying to engage this wider internet organizations, which means the people with a lot of money, to kind of understand why these topics and these discussions are important as well, or how it impacts them. And so we're trying to bring in that different perspective as well currently, to engage with the private sector in the internet, in the wider internet community, and see if we're able to also kind of address part of the funding issue, as well as get more people continuing to be involved in this space. Sorry, it's a long answer, but I hope it was all fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you cover a lot of great points, and yeah, I think the APIGA case is very interesting, like how we can scale up. Of course, like sometimes capacity building and engagement cannot be done only one organization. Like we need to cooperate or collaborate with some other regional or local organization. And I think mini APIGA or like local APIGA is, I think it's very good starting point to scale up the community. So I think this is the last question. And to start this question, I would like to ask Jun how we can align and integrate existing resources or community to that we can build the collaborative pathway.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think I hear all the panelists' discussion very interesting and important. So thank you very much for that. And first of all, then there could be it's a lot of diversity of a way for the training and kind of passing the idea, sharing with the idea with the next generation, and the diversity of participants are going to be a very important issue now for the kind of modern internet space, rather than not only the engineering things, but also for the kind of a policy level, application level people. That's also true that in that sense, then none of the single method of training or education can cover everything. Therefore, it's really important that the opportunity like this is going to be kind of course some of the APAN or the ICANN or whatever the place is trying to gather. They invite the people who's doing the leadership on kind of sharing the internet concept or the governance type of ideas together, and then sharing them is going to be a very important. That's being said, then also my interest. And basically, the question to all of you is, including the audience, that I've been thinking about what kind of Asia Pacific role to the global internet, and then because we are sitting on a kind of it's always a special thing. So I've been working on for example, the language diversity type of a thing of the internet, and which was probably the very strong requirements from the region rather than the other parts of the world. And so the original internet pioneers, for example, from the US, some of them really thought that all the people on this planet is speaking English. I mean, there was such a kind of people existing in there, and the computer science, especially on very early stages. But so kind of we kind of contributing to the making the internet space very much diversity and respecting the different language, different culture, and other things. So by saying that, is there any way that respecting the diversity of culture, art, music, food, and the strong diversity of contents to be kind of now everything is on the internet, and then so we kind of working together for the project-based running or whatever, and then getting down to the what the internet is type of a way. So this is very much the characteristic and of the role of Asia Pacific is one of the things I want everybody to think about. Another thing is that the Mariko showed about the layering architecture thing. So the important thing is not this type of a layer, and somebody already mentioned. Then kind of the new students think that the internet is an existing black box thing, and the services everywhere. And then quite not understanding about the kind of basic infrastructure, and the engineer instead learning about like a programming language type of a thing, and then creating the software to work to match with the existing the technology. But the important thing is the internet design policy. So from an engineering point of view, so the autonomous distributed system I mentioned, end-to-end concept, and the non-centralized control. So standard and open, open standard impact for the technology, and symmetric, the protocol design like a TCP, maybe blockchain as well. So those technical design policy should be learned very well by the engineering students as well. So this is kind of a two different approaches from the kind of application type of characteristic of Asia Pacific, and then down to the mechanism why internet and the digital technology is kind of playing a most important platform role in the world. So then also the technical learning from the basic design policy of the internet is a simple and a very, very important. So that's should be learned by, I think it's by everybody. I mean, including the kind of policy application type of things. So the last things I'd like to mention and impressed by Edmond's speech is the global governance, global space, and then so it's the participating is very important rather than sending the representative to the United Nations type of things, which is a very, very critical and important thing, participation by each of the users for the, what is our future, and creating the future is going to be very important. So that's very much I don't know, it's the questions, but anyway, so that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Jun. Yes, I think you mentioned about, I think it's very important also for us to think about what is the role of our region to contribute to global internet, because I think Jim mentioned about like maybe language diversity, or probably there might be any other strong requirement from the region. For example, I think in APAN meeting we have like disaster mitigation working group or session. I think that is also critical to our region, because sometimes we have tsunami, earthquake, and like the cable is cut, often cut, something like that. But thanks about that. And colleague, would you like to speak up about the question 2 or 3 if you would like to do?
Sure. It's okay. Wait, let me go and look at question 2 again. But yeah, so I mean, it's I think it was mentioned earlier during the talk as well, like different organizations, there's already quite a bit of resources available um, across different organizations. Yeah, like as this graph that chart clearly shows. So I think it's better that we focus on kind of things that haven't been done, or that, or yeah, like capacity building in the collaborative sense of kind of encouraging, those bonds across different geographical backgrounds and different cultural backgrounds. So yeah, I think Mariko, myself, and Awa were all part of that. Some of those initial batches of APIGA students, which was actually for me that was one of my first experiences into this space, was getting to meet like Edmund and Akinori from JPNIC and some other, kind of having that direct access to mentors in this field was kind of what one of the things that encouraged me to keep going, and actually kind of eventually spun into this course in some ways. So I think not just the learning materials, but also the, yeah, like Edmund mentioned, the alumni network or the support framework, to encourage people to stay with us, or kind of continue on this journey, and take initiative. So it's um, that's part of the one of the more important things that I've come to realize over the past couple of years. The other one is, yeah, like I think Edmund mentioned at the beginning, the tech side is not that difficult at a conceptual level. But on the flip side, getting engineers to think about, some of, like, I teach a basic computer science class, and trying to get some, very technical people interested in the policy side of things is actually sometimes more difficult than it is to do the other way around. So kind of, bridging those different background gaps, maybe not cultural, so to speak, but, kind of, I guess, translation in some ways of, transcending different, you know, silos of, whether someone's a, legal or business person versus a, engineering major. So those types of kind of multidisciplinary kind of communication tools, or kind of being able to speak with people from a variety of different backgrounds, I think, um, is one of the things that we should focus on kind of going forward. Um, because it's very easy to stay kind of siloed, in our own individual economies or countries or regions. But, kind of getting people to branch out and kind of, yeah, as Edwin was mentioned, share ideas with others, and getting people to open up in such a diverse environment, I think is something that we might need to tackle as a community more going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I really agree with the Corey that it's a nice that for example the government functions silos with dedicated missions, in creating the silos. It's not the bad thing in general, but the important thing is that who's kind of viewing everything is probably the one of the way is that you're gonna get aged, and that then so you view a lot of things, and that therefore you can see the all the kind of beyond the silos, and then you now understand the society and the government and the governance and everything. But instead, then the technology we are working on is kind of internet, the digital data, AI is very much, kind of de-siloing. Any silo should be, kind of working together, and a lot to share beyond the silos, right? So in that sense, then the internet community people should be responsible in terms of de-siloing the society. It's also true for the kind of a local country, local region, also for the entire planet. So this is a mission of the internet.
Thanks, Cole and June, to share very important message. So actually, we're a bit running out of time. We only have 5 minutes, but if I think the important point on discussion topic 3 is sometimes we call career ladder, like how we can build up the, like, for example, how younger generation can be management, something like that. But maybe we might need to discuss on the learning ladder, or like alumni, like how to connect the different programs, or how once the students, or I don't know, internet users finish those courses, like how they can keep in touch, and how they can involve in the community, how can get the support from the organization, something like that kind of discussion would be good. I think Inchen shared the AP Star meeting is happening, I think once a year or twice a year. So maybe that will be a good place to discuss about this kind of topic too. So I would like to have if audience has any 1 or 2 questions we would like to hear for speakers or.
Hi everyone. So thank you for your comments, all the panelists. It was quite insightful. I actually have 2 questions. First one being that to address the APIGA from regional to local. So I just want to ask that when can we expect another layer to that model? Basically, APIGA, the regional APIGA went to the local APIGA. So do you think that we can add another layer and we can reach like more remote areas? For example, I come from India and the local APIGA was hosted for the first time in India a few months back, and I was a fellow as well. So since we know that there are very huge economies in Asia Pacific, such as China and India. So do you think that number of like 30 fellows selected from all over India is sufficient number, since it's very vast? So maybe we can like add another layer and we can reach more remote areas within the different economies. So that's my first question. Shall I continue with the second or after the answer? Okay, so the second question is, do you think there is a need to add like more people or members in the multi-stakeholder model? Like, can we add more stakeholders in it? Will it be a good idea, and will we reach like more perspectives, or will it be chaotic? So what do you think? That's
Okay, I'll respond to the first question first, and then we'll see the second question who wants to respond. Yeah, so for APIGA, the reason why we're kind of capping the cohort to a small size also because it still does retain the very hands-on interactive format. Which is why when we work with local hosts, the one key thing is still to keep the cohort pretty small, especially there's a topic in it which is the ICANN model conference, and it is just impossible to do it with like a larger cohort. So in the longer run, it is possible because again, with more local audience trained like yourself, maybe you could help reach out to a part of the more remote area in India where maybe but this again, it's a scaling thing and also a financial thing. So the partner organizations definitely we won't be able to support all of those like small events at the local level. But if the local host or maybe even the local government or any other additional support that you can get in terms of financially could support it. I think scaling the talent, which is the youth itself and the alumni, to kind of bring forward the message to other participants and kind of organize that local APIGA multiple versions in one country is possible in the longer run. Yeah.
I'm happy to try to answer the next question. The short answer is yes. I think if there is a need, other stakeholder groups should be involved. And right now, I think most of the, actually all of the internet governance ecosystem institutions allow anybody to go in and participate. But of course, there are different stakeholder groups. And you're talking about adding more stakeholder groups. So take ICANN as an example, right? Right now you split into the CC, NSO, and the GNSO, But in the beginning, it wasn't so. It was called the DNSO, and it was split into two. So one was added. The ALAC, the At-Large Advisory Committee, didn't exist in the first 5 years of ICANN, and it was in a prototype in the 5th to 9th year until it was finally created. So different stakeholder groups can be created, but the thing is, we don't try to create it just for creating more stakeholder group sake, right? So identifying a need, identifying an area that is a gap in terms of participation that would bring in a diverse, better diversified perspective for issues that, for example, ICANN is dealing with. That's definitely a good thing. And one example recently that was brought up a few times actually is potentially a YAC, a youth advisory committee of some sort, whether it's attached to the ALAC or whether it's on its own or some shape or form. That's a worthwhile exploration. But so what does it really mean? How does it add to the ICANN policy development process? That needs to be thought through, not just creating for creating's sake. And does youth already have places that they actually can participate? If so, why create a separate one? Those are questions that we need to answer, and that's why you need to participate at ICANN and to change that.
Thank you. Then thanks for sharing your question, and I think it's glad to know you're also alumni of the program too. So I think if there are no other question, I'm gonna close this session. Thanks for attending, everyone. For my last slide, please let me introduce our new online course, Participate in the Internet. This is the QR code, and this is the URL too, so you might type in your in your web browser. And as Collie shared, this is very fresh online course. You could be like, I don't know, first 100% to check out our online course because we published this yesterday afternoon, I guess. So maybe this is, I think, completely public online course. So if you create a Future Learn account, you can learn. So maybe you can extend this the course URL to your local community or in your organization, maybe the people around you or the younger generation in your organization. That would be great. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. And thank you for June and the colleague and Edmond, Alvaro, and Chen to contributing to this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.